So we started discussing last week the union of Yom when Rosh HaShana falls out on Shabbos, the Mishnah in Rosh HaShana, and we'll quickly summarize and continue. So we pointed out last week, the Mishnah says, "B'mikdash hayutokin, avalo b'medina." In the Mikdash, Machlokes Rashi and Rambam, what the Mikdash is, whether it's just the Mikdash or the Rambam has a more inclusive definition that includes the city of Yerushalayim, the old city of Yerushalayim. We'll see halach l'maaseh how that fits in shortly. And then we pointed out the Gemara asks why. What's the difference? I guess you should turn it on. So the Gemara asks, why not? What's the difference between Mikdash and Medina? So why not blow shofar in the Medina? So the Gemara first answers, that's what the two psukim are. The two psukim in the Torah, in Parshas Emor, Zichron Shua, Parshas Pinchas, Yom Shua. So the Gemara says, it's no question. When is it a Yom Shua? When is it a Zichron Shua? When Rosh HaShana falls out on Shabbos, it's Zichron Shua. When Rosh HaShana falls out during the week, it's Yom Shua. And that's what the Gemara first wants to say. That is why we don't read on Shabbos, we don't blow shofar on Shabbos in the Mikdash, in the Medina, because of Zichron Shua. So at this point, that's a biblical distinction. The Gemara says that can't be, because if biblically speaking, there is no mitzvah blowing shofar on Shabbos in the Medina, then how could there be a mitzvah in the B'mikdash ve-chatima, and how could they blow in the Mikdash? So therefore, the Bavli concludes, a simple reading of the Bavli, you're right, really there is no difference. Both Yom Shua and Zichron Shua refer to during the week and Shabbos. Alright, so why don't we blow shofar? That's a din d'Rabbanan, Gzeira d'Rabba, we're afraid you're going to come to, it's going to be Gorem Chilul Shabbos. So that's the simple reading of the Bavli, that Min Torah we should be blowing shofar, even in the Medina. It's only Midrabanan they said not to. We had the Shiboli Haleket who wanted to make more shalom with the Yerushalmi. As we'll see, the Yerushalmi keeps the initial pshat of the Bavli. The Yerushalmi says Yom Shua refers during the week, Zichron Shua on Shabbos. There is no mitzvah at all of blowing shofar on Shabbos in the Medina. So if that's the case, then so what does the Yerushalmi do with the question of the Bavli? That if it's a biblical distinction, why should there be a difference between Beis HaMikdash and the Medina? So the Yerushalmi answers, or the Mefarshim on the Yerushalmi answer, it is a special drasha they have, that, and the Rav elaborated on this as well. If you look at the psukim in Parshas Pinchas of Yom Shua, that's dealing more in the Mikdash, dealing with things that are going on in the Mikdash. While Zichron Shua are things, if you look at the context of the psukim, is referring to even the Medina. In other words, the Bavli, the Yerushalmi has a special drasha. Yom Shua is next to the Karbanos, so they have a drasha. But Makar Karbanos, the place of the Karbanos, i.e. the Beis HaMikdash, it's always a Yom Shua. So you're right. So with that, it's a special Gzeras Akasav Alimud, a special Din D'Oraisa. The Yerushalmi learns out to say, really, there shouldn't be really, according to Yerushalmi, it starts off, there is no mitzvah of shofar on Shabbos. And how can we read in the Mikdash? That's only because it's special drasha from the juxtaposition, and opposed to the Bavli that says the opposite. There is a mitzvah of blowing shofar on Shabbos. It's only a Gzeira d'Rabba not to. And according to the Bavli, so why not in the Beis HaMikdash? So that's, we know, ain't shvus b'mikdash. We don't make rabbinical decrees in the Beis HaMikdash. Kohanim's reason him, and therefore the Din D'Oraisa stands in the Mikdash and not in the Medina. And we had the Shiboli Haleket who wanted to have somewhere in between. Maybe the Bavli was also agreeing to the distinction that Yom Shua and Zichron Shua. So even the Gemara says Gzeira d'Rabba. So he wants to say that no, he's just explaining why does the Torah say, the Torah is saying no shofar in the Medina. Why not? because it's like the Ashina time of the Krab, by Gzeira the Rabbah is explaining the reason why, because we're concerned, the Torah was concerned that it's going to be going Chol Shabbos, so they made a Gzeira like Rabbi Akiva, like Rabbi Yosef Engel has in many places. We find not only rabbinical decrees to prevent the rights, but even biblical decrees, like we discussed B'dikas Chametz to protect you from, or Bal Yirah Bal Yimatzah to protect you from Achilas Chametz, or as the Chasim Sofer writes, Lo Sebasha Gadi Bachal Avimo 3 times, and Rav Moshe Salveshik had a shayla. They went to ask them on YU. They were doing a science lab and nothing to do with eating, and they were, I guess the ingredients were milk and meat, so they say over in his name that he was matter it. So he had to be working along these lines of the Achronim that say that really we're not really concerned with the Yisr Bishul. It's only the reason why it's a biblical decree, Gzeira Atu Achila. So I guess, it's, even though it's a minority view, so why over here he was Darshin in time in the crowd, that's what they say over. But either way, that's what the Shibal Eleket is saying here, is the Zichron Chua and Yom Chua stick, and the Gemara is explaining the reason why the Torah says Zichron Chua. So kind of more like the Yerushalmi, as we pointed out also, it's not a total, we don't totally disregard the Yerushalmi anyway, because as we'll notice in our davening accepts the chiluk of the Yerushalmi of Yom Chua and Zichron Chua. And we'll have to explain according to the Bavli, what do we need 2 psukim for? According to the Yerushalmi, I need Yom Chua and Zichron Chua. They're telling me 2 different things. One Shabbos, one during the week. But the Bavli never answered why does the Bavli need 2 psukim, Zichron Chua. We'll give an answer from the Rav shortly. And this to point out that I think the Rav, he says it more Derek Drush, it's in Rav Shechter's Sefer, B'ikvei Hatzon. He seems to be answering up. So what would he tries to answer up the Yerushalmi, like the Bavli's question on the Yerushalmi. How could they blow shofar in the Beis HaMikdash if it's a biblical distinction? And also it's not it's not a malacha. It's a chachma. So it sounds more like Derek Drush, but he wants to say the Pashas HaGemara is an Issa D'Rabbanan to blow shofar on Shabbos. The Rav says, no, it's not really an Issa D'Rabbanan. You know what the Yerushalmi would hold? The Yerushalmi holds that first we'll get into it, but he gets into the whole discussion how shofar is really a din in tefillah. Shofar is connected to tefillah, as we'll explain with many proofs shortly. And therefore he says on Shabbos we have an Issa Techina. Again, it's not, we have Sorochi Rabbim, we do it in our tefillahs, but in general, even though Tosfos writes and the Gemara Brachas writes it's Tircha, it's Tzibur, that's why we daven 7 brachas instead of 19. But the Rav claims to Yerushalmi holds there's no real Issa D'Rabbanan, it's Issa Techina, and that's why in the Medina, that's why we don't blow shofar on Shabbos. What about the Beis HaMikdash? And according to Yerushalmi, no, so that's the Makam Tefillah. The whole concept of the Beis HaMikdash is karbanos, and it's also based tefillasi. So he says Derek Drush. That's the pshat in the Yerushalmi that is an Isser. It's out Isser Techina, not as the Isser D'Rabbanan. It's a lower level. It's not a real Isser, but he's saying it Derek Drush, I believe, not Derek Halacha, and that's what he wants to explain. The Yerushalmi would answer. That's the problem. That's why in the Medina on Shabbos it's the problem of the Isser Techina, but in the Beis HaMikdash there was none, since that's the whole essence of the Beis HaMikdash is with tefillah. So we want to say that, but we're going to explain a lot more. But that's why this is quickly to answer up the Yerushalmi. So bottom line, we have a machlokas Yerushalmi and Bavli whether there's no mitzvah at all to blow shofar on Shabbos, or there is a biblical mitzvah, but there's no mitzvah D'Rabbanan. So we pointed out that my nafkamina, what's the difference? So perhaps one could debate it as well, but the post can bring down if you mistakenly say Zichron Chua instead of Yom Chua on Sunday, or on Shabbos you say Yom Chua instead of Zichron Chua. So according to the Bavli, there's nothing to talk about. You're definitely good because, as we said, the Bavli says both days are connected to each day. So if you said one, then the other would make a difference. According to the Yerushalmi, some posts can bring down. Again, it's not halacha l'maisa, it doesn't make a difference. According to the Yerushalmi, you'd have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. That gets into gets into the fundamental question: what mistakes you go back for or not. Assuming it's one of those mistakes that's in the bracha you go back for, then according to Yerushalmi, one can entertain the question according to the Yerushalmi. According to the Bavli, you never get started. And then we point out as well, Rav Shlomo Kluger and others raises the issue, and we say it's more for Sephardim than Ashkenaz. But let's say someone forgot Avar V'Taka, they forgot it was Shabbos, they forgot that they didn't know that on Shabbos, Rosh HaShana, you don't blow shofar, and they went ahead and they blew shofar. So it was a Sephardi show, so they made the brach and they made a shachiyano. So now the shaila is, now comes Sunday, and now they're blowing shofar. Should they make a shachiyano or not? Because you only make the minhag Sephardi is only to make shachiyano the first time. So again, according to the Yerushalmi, there's nothing to talk about. You have to make a shachiyano because it was meaningless. You didn't do anything. According to the Bavli, one can clear, maybe as we'll get into right now, the question is there a kiyum ha-mitzvah, and that's the famous Rabbi Akiva Eger, and he raises the question, and also in terms of what, and there's a ve-chatima on it, the fundamental question that we, as we mentioned, yesh koach, as the Gemara says in Yevamos, yesh koach l'chacham l'alkor dvar Torah b'shei ve'al-kaseh. There's an opinion in the Gemara even with kum ba'aseh, but we pass that the chacham can uproot a mitzvah min Torah by telling you not to do it. So the question is, what's pshat in the koach ha-chachamim? Does that mean that they could oker the mitzvah gami? And there is no mitzvah. It's true, the Torah says there's a mitzvah shofar. The rabbis say, no, that's it. End of discussion, the mitzvah of shofar no longer exists. In other words, if you blew shofar on Shabbos or heard it, there'd be no kiyum mitzvah whatsoever. There's nothing to talk about. Or they say, no. The chachamim don't have that much power. All they can do is to tell me, you should not, there the Rabbi, you should not go and blow the shofar on Shabbos, or go. So therefore, they're not telling me that the shofar, the mitzvah shofar doesn't exist. It does exist. They're telling me not to do it. In other words, that would be the case that the Fri Apr quotes about, I guess, 150 years ago in Yerushalayim. And in fact, it was different. It wasn't just one ma'aser. Rav Schlesinger was one of them, but there are other cases a little bit before the same issue where it was Rosh HaShana on Shabbos, and they were in Yerushalayim. So that gets into the Rif sheet to the Rambam, and number one Yerushalayim is the Mikdash. But also that gets into what's the pshat in the Mikdash. Is the Mikdash out the extension? Kedushas Yerushalayim is an extension of Kedushas HaMikdash, or is it a din and basin? That's the whole discussion. It's a Beis Havad. He had a basin there. He was in Yerushalayim. So the issue was, so he felt there's a whole big tumult. So there were different stories claimed. Some say he closed the door. He put even though he put down the, I don't know if he had California shutters or what type of shades, but he put the shades down, he closed the doors, and he did. Others say he never did it. Whether he did it or not, that's the shaila. The shaila was, should I try, is there an Indian for me to try and hear that shofar on Shabbos? I can't go ahead and do it, because the rabbis told me I can't. But is there any Indian for me to go ahead if someone else is going to do it? So there's no harm, I'm not doing anything wrong if I'm hearing it. And if maybe I'm even getting a kiyum ha-mitzvah. No, because that's a separate topic we'll get into. But I'm saying is, what's the Ave? Right, the Ave, but that gets into the nature of mitzvahs to Rabbanan, in terms of it's not like, in terms of which.
But even by shofar,
right.
Gazel, we can still
But how do you, I thought...
Shofar Gazel, we think, that's it, the Rambam, right?
They don't come together. Right. They don't come simultaneously.
But also, we'll see the Rambam, because it's saying, there's no, we'll get into that topic, but there's no ding zela by Shemiah, he writes. Right. That's
the actual coal is not
right, you can't steal a coal.
But even if he had a bait in, if it's a din d'Rabbanan, you need a greater bait in to overturn a gzeira. If it's the rice, you can interpret it your way.
No, but if he's saying,
but if it's din d'Rabbanan,
no, it depends what. If he's assuming
the Gemara says you need a.
I know, but if he's assuming the mikdash hayutokin, he's assuming daraisa. he's fulfilling. He has a mitzvah deraisa. He's assuming in
He's assuming he's in the mikdash.
Yeah, he's assuming the din deraisa is there's no gzeira derab on him. You're right. Well,
He's interpreting.
right, he can't come around. Right, even though somebody asked me, I think you brought up. We asked actually. It's very interesting. Rabbi Yosef Engel in the Gilyoni Hashas, he says this must have been a very early Gzeira, just to mention, you mentioned when exactly this Gzeira. So he writes a big chiddush. I don't know a big chiddush or not. It sounds like a big chiddush to me. He says this is an old Gzeira Derab. You know when it started? Bisman Moshe Rabbeinu. He said it goes back to the time of Moshe. And that's what Zichron True is an allusion to. It's Rasmachta Gzeira Derab. They were afraid not to bullshit. So he goes back. You know what he's saying, but he goes and he has a whole discussion on it. That he says there's an old Gzeira going back. The Gemara quoted Gzeira Derab, but it goes all the way back to much. In other words, Zichron True already is an allusion to this where it comes from an old takana. But either way, that's what they point out here.
The Torah is Geras, the Rabbanan of Moshe Rabbeinu. They're saying.
But he's just saying that he's saying that's when that was an early smach. The Chachamim during the time of Moshe made the Gzeira Derab based on Zichron Trua. That's what he's saying. And it was in much. Either way, that was a discussion exactly when this Gzeira. So I just thought it was interesting. Rabbi Yosef, you can look it up in the Gilyoni Hashas. He says his Rab wants to be marach on, but he didn't go into it. But I'm saying is you can look up. He gives the different marmakomas there. So he points out that's a general question. That's the famous Meshach Chochma and others actually in the Tzivas in terms of what's the nature when we say V'osasim and Adavar even small. What's the nature of the din drabanan? The Meshach Chochma on Parashat Shoftim he quotes the Achronim on it. But see, he writes, because he quotes different Yerushalmis, all Drabanan are equal. In other words, he says, because the famous Kasha of the Rambam writes every Drabanan is a Daraisa, so then why not Savak Daraisa Chumra, the whole discussion. So, how the Meshach Chochma answers it in other Achronim is there's a fundamental difference between an Issa Daraisa and an Issa Drabanan. Again, this is the point of contention also, but this is what many Achronim write, that an Issa Daraisa is like an Issa Chefsa. It's something inherent. When they say don't eat treif, it's inherently poison. There's something. It's poison to my soul. It's poison. You drink poison, you're going to die, or you're going to get sick. It's something. It's inherent. It's nothing to talk about. And it's a drabanan. It's not pshat that there's anything wrong with what you're doing. The rabbis made. They said this is a drabanan on this meat. So when let's say you eat this meat, it's not that you did anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with the meat itself. You didn't eat treif. It was Maridas Chazal. He quotes in the Tzivos in the beginning of Chosha Mishpat, who quotes this, that the famous, it's the Gemara Chulin and the Rambam elaborates that if you buy, let's say you buy food in a kosher butcher shop, you assume it's kosher, and you come back and you find out that it was treif. So lucky is you go back and you get your money back, you get the full discount. However, if you go and you find that somebody is a drabanan, you get no. This is all b'shogeg. Obviously, not b'mezid, which leads to another question, which maybe the person. But either we'll come back to that question in a minute. But the question is here is right. So he points out that he said you didn't do anything wrong. The b'shogeg, I'm eating it, so you can't even get anything back. What's the pshat? So that's the Isser is Marita. That's all you have. The whole thing is on a din drabanan b'shogeg, there's a tosis in Habon and Shabbos. If you violate a drabanan b'shogeg, there's no Isser. Ain't Sarah kapar even. That's why I always have a discussion. But when we discuss when we discuss lights in terms of electric lights, so incandescent bulbs are considered, let's say, Eish Ma'amishan. Fluorescent bulbs are only drabanan because they're not eight. So I always discuss what are the pros and cons of having incandescent bulbs in your house or having. So one is for Havdalah, you need an incandescent light if you want to, in terms of filling. But in terms of let's say on Shabbos you shut off your light b'shogeg, so that's how. So this is drabanan b'shogeg, saying Sarah kapara. So you don't need someone else mentioned something else about a light in the house to me, but that would be a case where even b'shogeg you wouldn't need kapar, because that's the soda is Maridas Chazal. So that it's the Isser on the Gavra, not so it's telling me not to do it. So therefore, it's not to do with mitzvah baba avera, which is on the chefsa. It's the fact it's not. In other words, it's not per se. It's nothing. It could be. My issue is not listening to the rabbis. It's not that I'm blowing the shofar. It's nothing. And many, there's a ritual. You with the mitzvah baba avera and certain mitzvah. We'll have maybe next. We'll get into the question of mitzvah baba avera shofar hagazel maybe, and then when we get the mitzvah shofar one next week.
Is this an extension of hutra versus the chuya? Like when we say that the Rabbanan said that, are they taking away the? I mean, that's Rabbi Kiveger. But is that the same question? Like, did they take away the entire mitzvah, and there is no more mitzvah, or the mitzvah remains, but you don't have a chiyuv to do it? But if it happens to be that you find someone that's doing it, I mean, isn't that essentially another way of saying hutra and techuya?
It's just, maybe it's similar. I mean, it's not in terms of here. You're saying it's kind of like hutra, it's like a chol day. Like on Shabbos we view it as, so you're saying hutra is like it's like chol. It's like it's not even Shabbos now or whatever. Yes, I mean
it's a similar idea.
Yeah, I didn't see them bring down, but in terms of svara, it's similar.
So whether the mitzvah is there, but you just don't have to participate,
so
or whether they were okra completely.
Exactly, that's what he points out here. So Rabbi Kiveger writes that yes, you get a kiyum hamitzvah. That when the Chachamim tell you not to do something, I think he actually says by shofar and Shabbos directly our case, that you violated an issa d'Rabbanan, the Gzeira d'Rabba, whatever, not listening to the Chachamim, but there is a kiyum ha-mitzvah of shofar. And this is really a major machlokas rishonim. So this will go through a couple of them. There's a couple of famous ones is the Gemara in Sukkah and Tosis in Sukkah. I think it's on Daf Gimel. The famous machlokas ve-chatima about a person has it's a kosher sukkah. He's sitting inside the sukkah, but shulchan or whatever is in his house or outside the sukkah. So we all know. So after he's one of the cases we follow ve-chatima. Ve-chatima got it right. We know you're going to end up where the food is. So the Chachamim said no, you shouldn't eat in the sukkah like that. The Chachamim said it's not good because you're going to end up outside the sukkah and not fulfill you. There's a lashon in the Gemara that someone who did this, and there's a whole discussion. The Gemara proves back and forth, but for our concern, it says one who has eaten in a sukkah with the table outside, well, kiyamta mitzvah sukkah miyamecha. He's never fulfilled his mitzvah sukkah ever. So Tosis writes. He says, computer, you're right. One who eats in like this, and so what do we see? The Chacham have the power to uproot the mitzvah completely. And the Ran says no. The Ran says that's not what it means. You don't take it literally. You have to fulfill your mitzvah karoi. Don't tell me there is a kiyum ha-mitzvah, but a partial kiyum, but you're not doing the best thing, but don't tell me the Chacham can't uproot it. Or similar, like they write by Pesach, called Shaloastu, when you need to fulfill Pesach Matzomara, called Shalom Shlosh the discussion which mitzvah we're talking about anyway. So some Rishonim say you're right. You haven't fulfilled your mitzvah, period. If you haven't, another say no, it doesn't mean you haven't fulfilled your mitzvah of Sipor at all. You haven't fulfilled your mitzvah of Sipor Yitzias Mitzrayim the way it should have been. Or the first Mishnah in Brachas, we don't have to go too far. The famous machlokas about how long do you have to wait, or for the Zman Kriya Shema. So really, according to the Chachamim, Minat Torah, like Rabbi Gamliel, you have until Rosh HaShana. However, the Rabbanan said you should say Kriya Shema by Chatzos K'dei Laharkas Adam Min Aveira. So Pashtus is Minat Torah, you have until. So therefore, so according to Chachamim, what happens if you do it after Chatzos? That's a poskim. I remember Morish HaKolel, Rabbi Willig was very strict on making sure, to saying Kriya Shema, don't wait till after Chatzos in cases where it's late. But what happens if you do Kriya Shema after Chatzos? So Pashtus, you got your mitzvah in Torah, except you violated Harchaka D'Rabbanan, which gets into a general question. Usually, Gzeira is on some issue you're going to do. Here, you're only going to be Mavatel mitzvahs after you have Kriya Shema, but the Lamaisa that the Mishnah has it is a discussion on that. So they point out to the Rabbi, there's a very interesting Rabbeinu Yonah. So he gives a lot of different pshatim, like what's going on over there. But his main shot is, he says, that the Chachamim say, you're okay the mitzvah of Kriya Shema. What, if you don't do it by Chatzos, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, that's it. There is no longer a mitzvah of Kriya Shema. So according to Rabbeinu Yonah, we see like Tosis and Sukkah, the Chachamim can be okay a mitzvah L'gamrei. Interesting, it also revolves around the issue. Yeah, in the same.
Says not like that.
Right, when Mil says.
Right, that was the Indian that they
right, it's not clear, right. Assuming Rabbeinu Yonah, it's not that Chachamim do within Rabbeinu Yonah, right? Assuming.
Right, but
yeah.
that's the question was even
right.
So Rabbi Gamliel's talking in Chachamim, they'll leave it.
Right, but you have the question because it comes up all the time. They also discuss it by, let's say, Kiddush, but the Minchas Chinuch discusses it. We know Minat Torah, you don't say Kiddush with Kiddush B'dvarim, but we do Midrabani do over wine. So let's say someone just did Kiddush B'dvar, they didn't do wine. So do I get my mitzvah the rights of Kiddush, or do I say the Chachamim, once the Chachamim said I have to do over wine, if I don't do over wine, that's what the Minchas Chinuch goes into a discussion on it. And we'll see that perhaps there's a distinction between these cases. And also reminds me very interesting of Chayim V'Lashon, because I guess this comes up throughout is, let's say the Torah's mitzvah is one way, and the Chachamim told you this is the way you have to do it, and you don't do it that way. So let's say Birkas Hamazon, for example. We know Minat Torah, the Achalta V'Savato V'Rachta, and now it's set up, we have the different brachas we make. Moshe Hazan Esakol, Yoshua with No Delacha, David and Shlomo Bonu Shalayim and Harugi Beiter. So it's interesting, or assuming it's true, but they say in the name of Rav Chaim Volozhin, he was makbid not to sing Sur Mishal Achanu during his meal Friday night. Of course they'll say, well, Litzvak always looking for an excuse not to sing. But let's say, or maybe I say he didn't say Sur Mishal Achanu. Whether he sang Zemiros or said them, but either way, so either some have, that's why some have a minute to do it after benching, some have a minute to do it right before benching, which might be even a stronger kasha about what to say. The question is why? Why in the world did Rav Chaim Volozhin not want to sing Sur Mishal Achanu? So some suggest along these lines that if you look at Sur Mishal Achanu, it's basically in the format of benching. As the Zima that goes through the first brach, Hazan Esakol, it goes into the Eretz Yisrael, and it goes into Binyan HaMikdash. Interesting, there is no Haruge, there's no fourth bracha, which is an interesting historical dispute in general. How old is Sur Mishal Achanu? So you have the whole gamut. So someone to bring a raya from here, look how old it is. Why isn't the fourth bracha in there? Because they didn't even have it was even before the Chachamim had Haruge Beitar. But either way, so the question was, that some wanted to point out, the reason why Rav Chaim Volozhin did not sing or say Sur Mishal Achanu is because he was concerned he would fulfill his mitzvah Minat Torah of benching. And so therefore, so we're not, number one, we're not concerned. The minute is we do it. So why are we concerned? So that's many of the tinies are like, because even it's true, even if Minat Torah at one point, those three things were enough, but once the Chacham set it up in our format, so the fact now that maybe if I do it, even let's say I said Sur Mishal doesn't do with Shabbos. Let's say I say Sur Mishal today. Would I say I fulfill my mitzvah? Or let's say I just say I'll mention the different three themes of Benjamin. Does that mean I'm really fulfill my mitzvah in Torah? Or perhaps once the Chacham set it up, it's like changing the mapeya of what it was doing, and therefore so that's the same mitzvah. So assuming we take the pshat of Chaim Volozhin, so perhaps he thought that the Chachamim don't have the power to uproot it. The mitzvah is still there, but you're not doing it the proper way. My kasha was the way to do it right before benching sounds even worse, because then it's like it's taking the place of benching. Either we assume anyway mitzvah svichas kavan, other reasons why it's not a concern. And also there's a more fundamental question of Chaim Volozhin is where's the ritzeh? We paskin if you daven, even if you bench on Shabbos and you leave out ritzeh, you're not yotzei. So Sur Mishal has nothing to do with Shabbos. We do it if there's no mention of. In fact, in many of the Zemiros, there's very little mention of Shabbos. So I don't know. I'm just leaving. So number one is maybe he never said it anyway, but it's along the same lines that again, if one did do that, if one said the different themes of benching, so this ties into the whole question whether the mitzvah in our Torah is still there or not. So it comes out. Rabbi Akiva Eger says clear cut yes. He says the mitzvah is there. You get the kiyum ha-mitzvah. The rabbis who tell you not to do it is Rav Shlomo Kluger, the Cheshek Shlomo in Megillah. He says that because the Gemara has three examples. One example was Purim on Shabbos. So he wants to say, he gets into a whole discussion of bar mitzvah. Someone turns bar mitzvah on that Shabbos when they move Megillah to Friday. So he gets into the whole discussion. What is the day of? Is the kid chayav to read Megillah? Even if he heard it, the Torah is chinuch. He gets into whether that the day was changed or no, really today is the day. Min Torah maybe he has to hear it, but his conclusion is that he says the Chachamim oker the mitzvah of Megillah completely. So the Rashi Pesach Frank in the notes, I think it's his son or grandson, whoever writes the notes in the Mikroi Kodesh, he just says there is no machlokas. It seems to be people quote it's a machlokas with Shlomo Kluger and Rabbi Akiva Eger on whether would a chacham make a gzeira, they open a mitzvah gamri or not. So really, there can be no machlokas because really there's three different. So he brings down three different categories of mitzvahs. Let's say one is sukkah. By sukkah, he points out that in the case with Beis Shammai, they said again. One could argue with what he's saying, but this is what he says. He says when Beis Shammai said no, just when the table ties had the sukkah. There they puzzled the chefsa. They said, this is not a sukkah. So therefore, when it came to there's a chefsa of sukkah, they said, therefore you're sitting outside. There's not even like sitting in the sukkah. When it came to, let's say, shofar on Shabbos, they said, I can't go ahead. It's a gavra. And they're saying on Kiddush, that's nothing. That was a mitzvah, great. They just added, they were enhancing the Kiddush, but no one would say that if you they even discussed it. In fact, that's the famous question of Magen Avraham. He's concerned you say Kiddush in davening and you can't make Kiddush for your wife. So no one says so he says you have to know each one's different, but he says by Kiddush it's just an added mitzvah to enhance it. Even if you don't have wine, everyone should agree you get your mitzvah min Torah of Kiddush. By shofar he claims that's why it's no mach, or Akiva Eger would agree to maybe by sukkah. It's by shofar was set up in Issa Gavra, and so you have to know each case, each category is different. But that'd be the fundamental issue here in terms of if you went ahead, should I try to hear shofar on Shabbos would depend on this issue, on this fundamental shaila, could the chachamim oker a mitzvah gamrei or not? That depends on the machlokas rishonim and perhaps the machlokas achronim.
Which one said the Sama focus? Like whose person says that he declares the sukkah not to be?
Oh, the different. He brings it in the Mikroi. I think it's whoever writes the notes in the Mikroi Kodesh. It's his son or grandson, or he has his.
That's that whole issue of Rabbanans being in Gaza.
Right, which itself is a machloket.
Right. Yeah. But he seems to be saying that the Chazal.
Look, I'm saying others say
most people say no.
Exactly. Others say in general there's a further discussion. Even we assume some Yisur Deraisa might only be an Itzah Gavra. Not every. We'll discuss that on our Yom Kippur shir in terms of some make a distinction within Deraisa. Right. I'm saying that point is a point of contention, but way many achronim
that argument
about the Gavra.
That's the Gavra thing.
Yeah, the kasha I have, which I don't really have an answer to, is if we assume the Issa D'Rabbanan B'Shogi is not a problem, so great, I have a great idea. I'll open up a pizza shop. I'll get non-kosher cheese D'Rabbanan. Or non-kosher ingredients. But the big chayla happened in Flatbush. Other places where the question was, did they have to give all the customers the money back? The answer was no, because it was Nissa D'Rabbanan. So the shayla so forget about B'Shogeg. I know it, but I'm not going to tell it. I'll put the sign up, Chol Yisrael, on the Chassidish Shahaz, Ameka Ma'ashkacha. Everyone's eating kosher, so what's the problem? Is it Issa D'Rabbanan and B'Shogeg, so therefore, what am I doing wrong? But obviously I'm not recommending it, but that's just the kasha I had exactly.
So they should have made a stance. it's still necessarily made a stop because the people think that they're abiding by Rabbanan.
But no, I think they're eating kosher. I don't think they're thinking Rabbanan. I'm saying the pizza is kosher.
You're not in the tradition of kosher. That's what I'm saying.
Chassidus the shchita, I'll put on my pizza, but they're still willing to eat it. But either way, that
international. All turkeys are called kosher.
Right, that's the question here. So that would be the issue. That was the whole issue regarding Rosh Schlesinger and that whole issue. It's a much more fundamental question in terms of the role of the Rabbanans and the rights. Again, it doesn't have to be one. You have to examine each case, whether it's kiddush, sukkah, shofar, but depending how you learn. But the one is a machlokes rishonim, even in the same case. Then you have to go through cases and see. So therefore, Rabbi Akiva Eiger is assuming there is no Isser for me to go. Like the Gzeira D'Rabba was for the one blowing. There's no problem for me hearing. So why shouldn't I go ahead? If I could go ahead and try to get the Kiyam HaMitzvah, that's the whole. This doesn't tie into. That was the whole that they used to quote the Rabbi all the time. When I think in the Al Gemurah Journal, they used to put out every year, like many years, that people, again, it was a big shiloh. Then let's say I'm in walking distance to a conservative shul or something, and I can't get. So what should I do? Should I go and hear the shofar there? And and the whole then they quoted them. No, it's better don't go. They used to put it before my time, but they say every year you used to put it out every year. Hachraz about that. That in terms of not going, he's saying for other, his Rabbi is a very strict sheet about him. He thinks maybe chukas agayim, the other forms of, in terms because he claims they got everything from the gayim, so therefore he has a whole. He's about to be dealing with this deraisa, so he has a very interesting sheet. But in terms of the Rab, in terms
the mixed sitting is
in terms of how they set things up. I'm just saying, whatever I'm saying, it's a big chiddush what he's saying, but in terms of he's very strict on a lot of things more than the norm because he holds with dealing, with real Yisur D'Oraisa. But either way, I'm saying in terms of right, and I guess if you get into
the emotional also separately.
Right, because the Rav he claims historically speaking that's where they got it from the church. The church has a mix. In fact, there used to be very little difference between knowing what was a Jewish place of worship and a non-Jewish. And one of the ways to tell was one was mixed seating, one wasn't. He claims, he has a story, however he knows it, that's what he claims. And then he goes, I heard from Rosh HaShana anyway, and therefore he claims it goes back, that's the Chukas HaGayim, mixed seating. And that's a whole different, he gets into tefillah now, but that's just on the side. But he was always very strict, more than than the classical postka because of his own, he had a very interesting chiddush in terms of how to view a lot of these things in terms of the makam tefillah. But either way, that's what the issue here is on Shabbos. The issue the Bavli leaves out is, but what do you need then Yom Trua and Zichron Trua? In other words, a Bishlam, according to Yerushalmi, we know Yom Trua is during the week and Zichron Trua is on Shabbos. So if I need two different psukim, but why, according to the Bavli, if they apply equally to during the week and Shabbos, why do I have to? Why do I need two psukim? So that's what the Rav explained. That there are two aspects to the mitzvah of shofar. It's not telling me two different days. It's telling me two characteristics, two aspects of the mitzvah of shofar. That normally we have, let's say, shaking lulav, eating matzah. We know there's a ma'isa ha-mitzvah and a kiyam ha-mitzvah. There's the act of doing the mitzvah, and there's a kiyam, there's the fulfillment of the mitzvah. So usually they go hand in hand. You shake the lulav, at the same time I shake the lulav, I get my kiyam ha-mitzvah. But when I eat the matzah, they come together. However, it's not always. Sometimes he says the ma'isa mitzvah is separate from the kiyam ha-mitzvah. So he gives different examples. Let's say, Ein anin is el b'leiv, avelus is b'leiv. So the ma'isa mitzvah is the nihugi avelus. You cover up the mirrors, you sit on low chairs, atifas yishmaelam. The nihugi avelus is the ma'isa mitzvah, but doing that by itself isn't meaningful. It has to cause and effect b'leiv. Avelis is belay. Same thing, Simchas Yantiv. The Maisa mitzvah is eating the bus of a yayin. It's supposed to affect the feeling, or by tefillah. The Maisa mitzvah is reading the words, but the Kiyam at tefillah is actually to be, it's Amida Omei L'fnei tefillah, like the famous Rav Chaim and the Rambam. And it goes through many mitzvahs where you have the Maisa mitzvah is separate from the Kiyam mitzvah. So that's what he writes. So
Kapara would go that way also?
With
his pshat.
Yeah, we'll get to Kapara, we'll get Tara and Kapara, we'll get to.
Yeah.
So that's right, it's along those ones, yeah. So he points out here, so that's what he says, that so basically Yom Chua is the Maisa mitzvah. However, so normally a Sheikh Lulav it's enough. But since he says shofar is an inarticulate cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's a din in tefillah. That's why he brings a geographical raya. So what do you mean geographical proof? Because what do we do when we eat matzah? What do? We eat matzah at the home during the Seder. We shake lulav during Hallel. Why are we blowing, especially if you're Sfard, it's even in the stylish one Esrei, why are we blowing shofar in the middle of tefillah? Because shofar is tefillah. The essence of shofar, and it's the inarticulate cry. It's even on, so to speak, a higher level. It's like you have the medrash that says by when Eliyahu comes down every bris milah, and then exactly whatever the exact moment is, whether it's when the baby's crying, maybe it's too late, but there's a moment where you can just ask for anything, so you just say help or whatever, but the malach comes down, and so therefore over here they point out that basically it's like the word. So we don't necessarily know what they ask for. So the shofar plays a role in tefillah. That's why shofar kafaf, the shofar is bent, and that's where the Gemara says in brachas, the more bent over you are, the more your tefillah will be answered. So the Rav has many rayas how shofar is linked to tefillah. And in fact, that's how he shows. We know we have a famous Gemara. The Gemara says in Rosh HaShana that let's say you're stuck in the middle of two towns, and the town you're in has nothing. So you have a choice. You have to either go to one town which has shofar, and one town that has shofar but no magzer, no one knows, you're not going to get, so you don't be able to daven. But the other town you'll get a davening in, but you're not going to have a shofar. So the Gemara says, pshita, it's obvious. Ha daraisa, ha darabanan. Shofar is daraisa. Saying Malchus, Shofars, and Zichronos is only darabanan. So you go to the town where it has the shofar. That's the Gemara. The Kasha, the Rabbi asks, and the Chasim Sofer, it seems to go against Rashi. It means the Kasha and Rashi, not the Gemara. Rashi goes against the Gemara. Rashi writes in Parashas Emor, when he writes Zichron Shua, what's Zichron Shua? He said you say the Musaf Shmoneser, the Malchus, Zichronos, and Shofars. The Kasha is, Rashi says it's Daraisa. He's against the Gemara in Rosh HaShana, which clearly says it's Rabbanan. So the Rav said it's no Kasha. When does Rashi say Zichron Shua? Again, it's not like Yerushalmi. But when does Rashi say Zichron Shua is Daraisa? That's only in the context of the Kiyah Shofar. When you're blowing shofar, when you're saying the Musaf Rosh Hashanah, in the context of shofar, the shofar elevates the tefillah to a din Daraisa. But saying it by itself is only D'Rabbanan, like the Gemara says. So therefore, according to on Shabbos, so when you don't have the shofar, so then you wouldn't have that. You would have, it would only be a din D'Rabbanan. But that's how he says the shofar elevates the tefillah into a deraisa. In fact, that's what he points out. Another famous Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. We know you can't use a shofar shel para. You can't use a shofar made from a para because ein kategar nasa sanegar. So the question is, like, what do you mean ein kategar nasa sanegar? Do we always say? And the question is, that's why the Kohen Gadol can't wear the big days of. So the Gemara says, is that true? We always say ein kategar nasa sanegar. The Kohen Gadol wears big days of all the time. He only takes it off when he goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So what do you mean? So the Gemara says, you're right. We only say ein kategar nasa sanegar when you're in the Snim, when the Kohen Gadol is in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Gemara says, so what are you talking about? Shofar shel para? You're blowing the shofar in Toronto. in New York, in LA, you're not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, so why are we worried about Ein Katego Dasas Hanegor? So the Gemara has some expression of that shofar is like a zichron kasi, or its zichron is kilufnim dami. So what's the pshat the Rav says? That's the same biso, that basically tefillah always machaven towards Yushalayim, the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore the tekiyah shofar, that's like a midah lefnei tefillah, that is the essence of tefillah, and therefore that's why when you blow the shofar it is kilufnim dami, and therefore we see the halacha of ein kategor Nasa Sanegor applies by a Shopara. In fact, one more raya, this quote from the Baal Amor. The Baal Amor, the Gemara talks about Tekiyas de Meyushav and Tekiyas de Meuma. So different Rishonim. The simple pshat, I think Rov Rishonim learn, Tekiyas de Meyushav are the Tekiyas you do before Musaf. You know, there's no chiyuv. Aminah gets to stand, but you don't have to stand. And the Tekiyas during Shemon Esrei, when you stand up, Shemon Esrei, so those are Tekiyas the movement. Comes along the Baal Amor and says, no, that's not what it is. Tekiyas the Meyushav are those in the middle of your Shemon, the ones of your Musaf Shemon Esrei, and Tekiyas the Muhammad, those are on your way out. You're standing, you're ready to leave, you're about at the end of davening, those are Tekiyas the Muhammad. So the Baal Amor, so then what if, So what about the Tekiyas before Kriyas HaTorah then? That's what the Baal Amor writes. That was a later takana. Why was it a later takana? Because we daven early on Rosh HaShana, or we try to. In fact, it's always, we know there's the famous, they bring down, I think they bring it down in Shulchan Aruch, or the post can bring down the Indian of not sleeping on Rosh Hashanah, because I think they're Rizal, or because you have a sleepy year. So therefore the minig is, I think some point out that Rizal did sleep. Himself he talks about, but they say what that Rizal did sleeping is more than we do when we're up. But what they point out, that most assume, many poskim, that really is only really until Chatzos, because it's a din. And of course it's always, as all these questions, not in a vacuum, what's the other choice? If you're going to sit around, talking Lashon Hara, this schmoozing and that, you're right, the choice is learning, but if you want to take a little rest, so you have strength to get up and learn a daven, so of course, the post can assume it's not a problem. But, so they point out that the kasha is, but we all wake up. You see, what do you mean you can't sleep during the day? I mean, who gets up at Rosh HaShana, Rosh HaShana? So, in terms of that, they get the kasha. But either way, so they point out that that was a later takana, because we wake up early on Rosh Hashanah. Maybe they woke up, they didn't want to sleep, and they got up at the daven dates on Rosh Hashanah. And so people get there early, it's a long davening, and older people, sick people that's there for so long, they're not going to get any shofar. But those people have to leave, so they instituted to blow the shofar before. It's a later takana. So in fact, that's what the Baal Amor says. You notice there's no discussion of the Nusach HaBracha on shofar in the Gemara. And so we'll get into that more next week. If it's a Machlokas Rishonim, Rambam, Rush, what bracha you make. So the Baal Amor says why? Because when did they used to blow the shofar originally? It was set up al Seder HaBrachas. So that's the famous Baal Amor, and that since the Chazal didn't set up a bracha if you're doing something in the context of the bracha. So there was no bracha originally on shofar because you didn't have. That's the famous kasha they ask on the Haggadah. Where's the bracha of Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim? To some sickers, the whole Haggadah is full of brachas. Well, that's why there's no bracha Birkas Hamazon. Where's the bracha? Because anytime you make something up in the context of brachas, therefore there was never. In fact, there's a very interesting Rambam going in the beginning of brachas, that we know in the whole Machlokas Rashi Tosas, the beginning, you daven early in shul, you daven Kriya Shema, so we know we go home and we repeat Kriya Shema later. So the famous kasha, where's the bracha in Kriya Shema? So Rambam goes and says, same answer. The bracha are the birkas of Kriya Shema. And therefore Rambam says, and if one who davens in shul early, you didn't fulfill your mitzvah Kriya Shema, and you daven and then you repeat Kriya Shema after Seitz, Rabban Gan says you make a bracha, Sheikh Shabbos Divano, with growth, mitzvahs, whatever the text is. We don't pass it that way, but that's his yisod. So he says that's what the Baal Amor is saying here. They had no bracha. It was a later institution. With the other Rishonim would this say that no, you don't. Gemara doesn't have to tell us every bracha. The Gemara gives us the rules. Psachim Dav Zayin. We plug it into the computer, and it comes up with what we don't. Gemara doesn't have to tell. That's a major machloket. Rishonim Achronim. Do we have a right to make up our own bracha? So you need a bracha that's already, set up from before. So that's what. So what's the pshat? So what do we see from the Baal Amor? The Baal Amor is saying specifically that what was the Birkat HaMitzvah? The Birkat HaMitzvah of Shofar was the Musaf Rosh HaShana davening. So the Rav says we see a direct raya from the Baal Amor because Shofar is a din in Tefillah, and that served as its Birkat HaMitzvah. So the Rav had many rayas. The Shofar Kafa, the geographical raya, we do it in Tefillah, Ein Katego Nasa Sanegor, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, and more, showing the link between Shofar and Tefillah, as the Rambam writes, Kol Tefillah below Kavanah, Tefillah. That's the Yisod. Normally you do a Ma'isa Mitzvah, that's enough. If I just had Yom Trua, it would be like lulav and matzah. I eat the matzah, that's okay. Even if I'm not necessarily having all the right kavanas. Or if I shake lulav. When it comes to Shofar, it's not enough to do a Yom Trua. You need a zikr, because that's the Rambam, they call it, even though it's Xeris HaKasav, but the purpose behind Shofar is Ura Yishem Yishanasam, wake up your sleepers, and you have to internalize the message of the Shofar. That's the pshat. So according to the Bavli, what do you need Yom Trua and Zichron Trua? They teach me the two different aspects of Shofar, not two different days. According to the Yerushalmi, Rosh HaShana Shachol B'Shabbos, and Rosh Hashanah during the week, but two aspects. And just to conclude,
so what if he said again?
Yes, the two aspects, to teach me the two aspects of Shofar. Yom Trua is the Ma'isa Mitzvah. So if I just had Yom Trua, if you didn't pull the Shofar, that's it. No impact on my life. I don't think about it, I move on. Great, it's like any other mitzvah I do. I'm Yotzei Lulav my matzah. But by Shofar it's not enough. It's also a Zichron Trua, because Shofar is a din in Tefillah, and Tefillah Kavanah is Likuva. Because the Rambam writes, called Tefillah below Kavanah Tefillah. So therefore, it's essential that you have a Yom Trua and a Zichron Trua. That's why the Bavli needs both psukim to tell me to fulfill the mitzvah of Shofar. You need to have both aspects, the Ma'isa Mitzvah and the Kiyum, Yom Trua blowing the Shofar, and Zichron Trua the Kiyum.
Why would you then go to the hospital and blow for somebody?
You mean
you just come home and blow for somebody you didn't hear it in shul.
Why would you?
Yeah, there's no tefillah there.
No, it's not the Shofar.
It's still Shofar on its own.
No, but Shofar.
To a connected.
No, but it's not. Shofar itself is a din in Tefillah. In other words, you can go. In other words, with this saying is Shofar is a din in Tefillah, and that's why it's put in. But not that. That you can't do Shofar's in. Shofar's meaning. Shofar's meaningful in its own right. It's a mitzvah of Tefillah, but it's a chelak. It's a chelak of Tefillah, and that gets into that the whole question of. We'll get into more next week. The whole issue this year comes up of chazaka b'mitzvahs in terms of you only have one, assuming you have two different Baal Tekiyas who blow, so therefore you only have one who gets the kadima. The Moshe quotes the Machos is Chronim on it. Maybe we'll get into that. It'll be in terms of who gets it. But just to conclude, that's the pshat, the famous. It's a Medrash, it's a Gemara, which is Agada, but the poskim bring it down la halacha. The famous Gemara by Avraham Avinu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How am I going to get Eretz Yisrael? B'schus Karbanos. What do you mean when there's no Beis HaMikdash? So b'schus Karbanos, Amirat HaKarbanos. That's how you keep those are the biggest Zionists, are those who say Karbanos every day. The b'schus Karbanos, we get to keep Eretz Yisrael. So, in fact, Rabbeinu Yonah writes, that's a din deraisa. In fact, this week's parsha, when he goes about the list of how many din deraisas of kriyas, mitzvahs of kriyas, one of them being brown is kriyas Kriyas HaKarbanos, he learns based on this Gemara, the Din D'Oraisa. Kriya Shema is a Maisa Kriya, because he gets into the whole discussion, how could you say Kriya Shema? The Gemara says, if you, even after Zman Kriya Shema, you can read HaKorei Lohis, you don't lose out. So what's the Chiddush? I know, of course I could say Kriya Shema. So different pshatim, some say maybe it's not without the Berachos Kriya Shema, but where Yonah writes is because there's an answer we take for granted, the Gemara in Gin, about reading Torah Shabbat Ba'al Peh. So he's saying that really it would be usher, but his chiddush is, any mitzvah that there's a kriya on, that doesn't apply to us. He goes through the different examples. If you have a mitzvah of kriya, that you can even read Ba'al Peh. So he goes through, he mentions in Vidoy Meiser, Kriya Shema, he mentions Karbanos. But the point being is, what do we see from this Rabbeinu Yonah? That when the Torah, first we see the Maisa mitzvah. Really you should bring Karbanos. That's the first step. But what can you do when you don't have a Beis HaMikdash anymore? You move to the next step, Amira. And then we have the third level, let's say, Tarkanes Ezra, you can't learn till you do a hearer. So we see in halacha these stages that first you try to do the Maisa mitzvah. If you can't do the Maisa, you do the Dibur. If you can't do the Dibur, you do the hearer. That's the Yisod here. He says by Shofar. So the same concept, Yom Shua, we do the Maisa mitzvah. And therefore but on Shabbos, when we can't have the Yom Shua, so halacha, you have the Zichron Shua. In fact, it's more of an Indian to spend time learning Hilchos Rosh HaShana and Yani Rosh HaShana. And you have the Dibur, that you can learn laws of Rosh HaShana, of Shofar. And then the hearer is the Zichron Trua that we have. So that he said is patterned after these Dinam D'Oraisa. It's not just by Shofar, but it's also we find by these other areas that first you try to do the Maisa, but then when you can't do the Maisa, you have the Dibur, and then you have the Dibur, you go to the hearer.
So it comes out that maybe one can suggest that it's a higher level to not have a shofar.
In fact, there's something that do. That's what among the different, especially in the Chassidish firm, they talk about how one answer they give to my question of Chazaka b'mitzvahs, they're really Shabbos. It's the perfect tekiah, and the whole Shabbos. We don't need a tekiah on Shabbos, and therefore he says based on this. The person, it's no kasha, the guy blew shofar. That was the shofar. Now it's the guy, you get credit for blowing the shofar. In fact, he wants to bring a raya from the Mishnah Berurah, which is totally out of context. But he has the Mishnah Berurah has some type of lashon. It's ki'ilu. It's like, because I think what he brings up is we know the minig that we blow shofar on Elul, but Erev Rosh Hashanah, the minig is we don't. But what about this year? Erev Rosh Hashanah, without blowing anyway on Shabbos, so therefore let's go ahead, we should blow shofar on Erev Rosh Hashanah. So I think the Mishnah writes, that since on Rosh Hashanah, it's like we blew, it's Ki'ilu Taka, whatever, I forget his exact lesson, so they want to bring it right. We see from here, you get the mitzvah of shofar, so therefore someone would say, therefore the guy got his mitzvah, now give it to the next guy. But they have the Meshech Chochmah has something on it also. In Chumash there's something about the Shabbos that you really have the tekiah. Right, so based along the line. So we're giving halakhic reason, based for that, right?